Hello, my artsy friends. Today we're going to be stitching a spooky sweet ghost. Let's get started. We're starting with a water-soluble stabilizer, so I'm going to peel this and stick it right onto my garment. I'll be able to stitch into this and then wash it away when I'm done. I like to go centered. I kind of line it up with the armpits. I like to have it a little bit higher. I don't want a saggy ghost. So once I get that on there, I'm going to get my yarn going. So I'm going to measure that from my fingertip to my elbow. I do that twice, and then I add just a little extra so I can have a tail. So I'm going to knot this and give myself maybe 4 to 6 inches of a tail. I like to weave that into the back to help keep it neat. So now that I have that, I'm going to use my threader. I'm going to put that through the needle and then go ahead and get my yarn pulled through. So once I have this started, I'll be beginning with a chain stitch around the outline of my ghost. So I'm going to do the chain stitch a little bit differently. If you'd like, you can use the regular chain stitch, but I'm going to show you a new one. So I'm going to come up through the back, and then I'm going to go into that same hole and then back out about 1/4 inch away. And this is kind of a cheat. You can go a little bit faster on the chain stitch this way. So now I'm going to pull that through, and it's going to catch my loop like you normally would for a chain stitch. And then I'll be able to do the same thing again. I'll go back down into that last hole and then back out about 1/4 inch or a stitch length ahead. So this will go a little bit faster. Like I said, this is a chain stitch. You can go back to the other stitch videos and just do the regular chain stitch. This just helps go a little bit faster around this outline. So I went through that same hole, out again about a stitch length ahead. I'm gonna make sure that that loops around, and I'm just gonna pull that through. So I'm going to do this all the way around for my ghost outline. So I'll do that and I'll meet you back for the flowers. So I did the outline of the ghost and his little hand, and now I'm starting on the stems. So I'm going to be using a back stitch here. So I'm coming up through the back, down through the front, and then I go up a stitch length and then back down into the last hole of my first stitch. So I'm going down, and that is our straight stitch. And now I'm going to go about a stitch length ahead. So these are all about 1/4 inch. And then I'm going to come back down into that last hole of my first stitch. And I'm just going to repeat that pattern over and over again and trace these stems. So now I'm going to jump up to the leaf. So you could do this with a satin stitch. I'm going to do a leaf stitch. So I'm coming up through the back, down through the front, about 3/4 down my leaf. And then I'm going to come up on one of the sides. So I'm going to come up here on the left side, and then I'm going to cross over to the right, just below where I made that initial stitch. That's going to help create the vein of the leaf. So I'm going to do that on the other side and keep alternating back and forth until I fill the shape. Again, this is the leaf stitch. Now that I have the stems and the leaves done, I'm going to start on the flowers. So this first one, I'm going to be doing a lazy daisy. So I'm coming up through the back, down through the front. I'm creating that loop similar to the chain stitch. This is just a detached chain stitch too. And then I'm going to come up through the top of that to catch my loop. And then I'm going to secure it by going over that and right back down. Now, I did decide as I was working on this to fill these in. So you'll see that in the next flower. So you could leave it here as a lazy daisy, or you could come up one more time and fill a stitch to give it a little more color and fill in that loop. So you'll see what I'm talking about here. So you can see I filled in that first one. So I'm still coming up through the back, down through the front. I'm going to catch that at the very top. So I'm going to get my loop up there and pull that through. And then once I've secured this, I just come back up with a straight stitch and fill in that petal. So I'm going to secure it here and then come right back up. So I've made a nice little spot here right in the middle. So I'm going to come up there, and then where I'm going in, I'm sharing the same hole where I secured that. So that's just going to fill in my petal. Like I said, it's just giving it a little more color, giving it a little more volume. You could totally leave these as little loops too. So So I'm going to finish my last one and then get going on the center. So I'm going to be doing French knots. So I'm coming up through the back, wrapping 2 times, and then going right back down next to that. And depending on how big your yarn is and how big your sweater is, you may want to do, I think I do 2 to 3 typically to fill these center pieces, but you can do as many as you like. If you wrap it 3 times, you'll do less, but I liked the volume of about 2 wraps. This is also a size 4 yarn for reference. And then I'm going to come up and I'm going to do our little eyes here. So this is just a satin stitch. I'm coming up through the back, down through the front, side by side by side. And I'm going to fill this in pretty quickly with my yarn. Now that the eye is filled, I'm going to come back through. I'm just going to add a little highlight here. So I'm just putting in a quick little straight stitch. You could do a French knot, a straight stitch, or you could just leave it black. Just love that it gives them a little more personality. And now that we're all done stitching, it's time to wash off that water-soluble stabilizer. So I'm just going to dip this into a bowl. I did end up soaking it a little bit longer to make sure I got all of it off. You can also pop it in the washer. And if you want to back it, Tender Touch is great for that, but you don't necessarily have to. And this is our final product. Key takeaways. Always, always, always wash your garment or fabric before stitching. Use the colors and stitches that best reflect your style. To avoid dark lines, be sure to dissolve the water-soluble stabilizer completely. This may mean soaking it overnight. Leave a long enough tail that you're able to weave on the back of your garment and use a whip stitch technique to secure. For a soft backing and to reduce thread pulls, try adding the Sulky Tender Touch to the back of your garment. Wash inside out in a delicates bag to prevent damage. Laying flat to dry will also help. Happy stitching! I'll see you in the next lesson.